Exposed, a simple woman's life-changing turnaround after being kicked out of a dealership. Jessica felt the weight of the world on her shoulders, a tight knot forming in her chest as she stood at the front desk of the dealership. The scent of oil and worn tires filled the air, reminding her of the dreams she kept buried deep inside. Every day she watched the mechanics hard at work, their hands skilled and assured beneath hoods of cars. She longed to dive in, to twist wrenches, to get grease under her nails. Her children depended on her, and this job, this small-town dealership, was supposed to provide for them. But in that moment, it felt like a cage. Then, the unexpected happened. Her boss raised his voice at a young mechanic, belittling him in front of the whole shop. Panic gripped her, and before she knew it, she was speaking up. "That's not fair," she shouted, her heart racing. A chorus of surprised gasps responded, but the fear in his eyes was unmistakable. "You're fired," he barked, and just like that, her steady ground crumbled. Jessica stepped out into the bustling streets, confusion swirling in her mind. The sun felt overbearing, as if it mocked her misery. Bills piled up at home, her little ones unaware of the storm brewing in their mother's heart. The world glared and whispered, the judgment in small towns was palpable. The kindness of neighbors soon felt like pity draped in saccharine words. "I heard about you, Jess," they said, voices dripping with a mix of curiosity and skepticism. Would she come back? Could she? But amid the shadows of despair, Sarah appeared like a beacon of light. A war veteran and Jessica's closest friend, Sarah understood resilience all too well. "This is your chance, Jess. Go for that mechanic course at the community college. Your dreams matter," she urged, her eyes alight with conviction. Jessica hesitated. "I'm a single mom. What if I fail?" Sarah's warm hand clasped hers. "What if you don't? You're stronger than any doubt." As she enrolled, the whispers of judgment trailed behind her, an echo of "What's she doing here? How could a single mother belong in a man's world of grease and bolts?" Life was tougher, and every day was a tug-of-war between her children's needs and her aspirations. She felt the constant pressure, an ache deep within, battling against her fears. Then there was her father, a mechanic himself, separated by the silence of years, pain and misunderstanding, locked in a cage. A chance encounter one afternoon her father at the local diner set off waves of emotions. "I never meant to push you away," he said, regret spilling over in his eyes. The words hung in the air, a tender thread that could either fray or bind them closer. Would she chance vulnerability again? Just as she thought victory was in her grasp, Jessica's dreams were threatened anew with rigid corporate policies that favored the established over passion. The community that once provided comfort now turned into a battleground. Standing up for herself and for what could be seemed like a mountain too steep to climb. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With a fire igniting in her chest, Jessica braced for the confrontation that could change everything. She was done being silent, done letting her dreams remain in the shadows. Would she break through the barriers or become just another story of a woman sidelined by a system that refused to see her worth? The answer loomed, electric in the air, as she steadied her resolve. The day Jessica stepped into the community college garage felt surreal. The scent of oil and gasoline wrapped around her like an old blanket. She hesitated just outside the entrance, heart drumming a frantic rhythm in her chest. This was real. She was here to claim a piece of her dream back. The classes were filled with young men, skeptical glances darting toward her. What is she doing here? They seemed to wonder. She took a deep breath, steadying herself. Each step forward was a promise made to herself. She could do this. Just moments into her first class, her instructor, a grizzled mechanic with years etched into his face, caught her eye. "You've got to want it, or it won't happen," he said, pointing his wrench toward her. Jessica met his gaze, determination etched on her face. Over the weeks that followed, she poured herself into her studies. Late nights were spent covered in greasy textbooks, her fingers stained with engine oil. Classes seemed to whiz by, and with every hands-on session, she learned not just about cars but about her own strength. She struggled, undoubtedly. There was the time her hands fumbled during an engine assembly, frustrating the others around her. But instead of fading into the background, she shouted, "I will get it right." Those words surprised even her, but they sparked admiration from her classmates. It was a reminder of who she was guarding inside, that she was not merely a single mother, but someone capable of grit and tenacity. Every moment was a battle against the whispers, against the doubt that crept in late at night. Her kids were at home, waiting for her, asking questions she didn't know how to answer. "Mom, why aren't you home?" they'd ask, and her heart would ache. Balancing their needs against her aspirations felt like walking a tightrope, one false move and everything might come crashing down. And then there was her father, who had silently watched from the sidelines too long. He often stopped by her class, watching her with a combination of pride and regret. One afternoon, he lingered in the doorway, watching her adjust an alternator. After class, Jessica caught up with him outside. "You should be proud, Dad," she said, her voice trembling. "I'm finally doing what I love." He nodded, eyes glistening. "I always wanted that for you, Jess." But doubt was a relentless companion. A few weeks before exams, when it seemed like she was finally catching a rhythm, she learned about a new company policy at her community college. They were cutting funding for the program that had become her sanctuary. Her heart sank. The thought of not finishing what she started tore at her insides. She had pushed past so many fears, only to face this wall. How could this be happening? Her dreams were slipping away just as they were starting to take shape. A wave of anger washed over her, and instead of retreating, she took a deep breath. This was at the moment that could define her journey. "We need to band together," she said to her classmates the next day. "We can't let them take this from us." As her words echoed in the room, she realized she wasn't just fighting for herself. She was fighting for everyone who had ever been told they didn't belong. "We need to make them see that we matter." Inspired, the class rallied behind her. They stood together, their voices joined in a chorus of determination. But would it be enough? With the weight of their hopes resting on her shoulders, Jessica felt the gravity of her next step. There was no turning back now. The confrontation was looming, and it could either yield success or lead her into deeper despair. Would they be heard? Would they win this battle, or had she taken on too much? The air buzzed with tension and possibility as she prepared herself. And in that moment of clarity, everything hinged on what would come next. She stood at the front of the classroom, surrounded by the faces of her peers. Their enthusiasm fueled her nerve. They knew what was at stake, not just an education, but their futures. Jessica could feel the weight in the air, thick with a mix of hope and fear. "We're going to schedule a meeting," she declared, voice steady despite the storm inside her. "If we all show up they'll have to listen." The room erupted in murmurs. Some nodded, while others whispered doubts. But Jessica silenced the voices in her head, focusing instead on the fire burning in her heart. Determined to prepare, they gathered each evening that week. The community college library became their makeshift war room. They scribbled notes, strategizing how to present their case. They highlighted stories from students who had transformed their lives through the program. "I was lost before I found this place," one young man, Leo, shared. "It taught me more than mechanics. It gave me purpose." Jessica felt a surge of emotion at his words. This wasn't just about her anymore. Each story revealed who they truly were, dreamers and doers, deserving of every ounce of opportunity. The night before the big meeting, Jessica sat at her kitchen table, Netflix softly humming in the background. Her kids were asleep, their faces peaceful and unaware of the battle she was fighting. She allowed herself a moment to reflect on how far she'd come. Yet, the weight of worry crept back in. What if the meeting went south? What if they were dismissed, their voices fading into nothing? A tear rolled down her cheek, but she brushed it away. The thought of her children watching her back down, watching her dreams shrink, inspired her resolve. She had to fight for them, too. Morning came faster than she expected, and as they assembled outside the administrative building, Jessica felt an electric current of nerves ripple through the group. This is it, she thought, heart racing. Inside, they were greeted by the department head, a stern woman with an air of authority. Jessica felt like a small fish in a vast ocean. It would have been easy to shrink back, to let doubt seep in. But the faces of her classmates echoed in her mind, and she knew this wasn't just about her. One of her classmates stepped forward, voice trembling but strong. "We're here to advocate for our program. It changes lives." He paused, glancing back at everyone else. "Please, we matter, our stories matter." Jessica took a deep breath, stepping beside him, heart pounding. "This isn't just a series of classes for us. It's our chance to rise, to show we belong." Looking into the room, she spoke louder, each word cutting through the tension. "We've fought hard to be here. We deserve every chance." The department head's brows furrowed as she listened intently. Jessica's voice didn't falter, she felt empowerment flow through her, urging her on. But just as the atmosphere began to shift, the department head abruptly interrupted, her expression unreadable. "I appreciate your passion, but the moment stretched painfully, the weight of everyone's anticipation pressing down." Jessica's heart thumped loudly in her chest. Would they be heard? Did they matter enough? And then, the unexpected happened. A sudden knock came from the door behind them. A familiar voice, her father's, echoed through the room. "I can't stay silent any longer. My daughter has a voice, and so do all of you." Jessica turned, eyes wide with disbelief. Her father had never intervened like this, not once. The room fell silent. All the eyes in the room turned to the door. In that unexpected moment, a new wave of hope surged within her. Would this be the turning point? The tension crackled as Jessica watched her father step fully into the room, ready to stand by her side. But the real question hung in the air: would it be enough to tip the scales and change their fate forever? Jessica's breath caught in her throat. Her father, a man who'd often retreated into the shadows, was now stepping into the light, his face firmly set with determination. His presence could shift the tide, she felt it in her bones. "Dad," she whispered, caught between pride and disbelief. He locked eyes with her and nodded, as if assuring her that he was there, ready to fight alongside her. The department head blinked slowly, an eyebrow raised, as if attempting to gauge the significance of this unexpected addition. "Sir, might I remind you that this is not a family meeting?" she interjected, her tone more authoritative than before. "I know what the stakes are," he countered, his voice deep and unwavering, "but I also know what these kids are fighting for. They deserve a chance." The urgency enveloping the room thickened, circulating his words like a fresh wind. "Dad," Jessica felt a mix of warmth and confusion swirling within her. This moment felt unreal. He stepped further into the room, drawing the eyes of not just the department head but the entire assembly. "I've watched my daughter struggle like so many of you, wondering if she has what it takes to succeed. I've listened to her talk about this program, the promise it holds, and the hope it gives." His heartfelt admission hung in the air. The murmurs around the room shifted, people leaning in as curiosity sparked. Jessica's heart soared. This was not just a meeting anymore, it was becoming a rally for all their dreams. You see, he continued, these students are more than just numbers or statistics. They are future engineers, teachers, and leaders. They give us something to believe in. His voice resonated, and for the first time, a flicker of recognition crossed the department head's face. Jessica felt her own passion overpowering her insecurities. She stood taller, her heart swelling at her father's words. Exactly. This isn't just about our grades or the classes, she jumped in, emboldened. This is our ticket to a better life. We're here because we want to make something of ourselves for our families. We matter. The department head, facing a sudden wave of emotional momentum, shifted her weight. But changing the program isn't as simple as you think. Please, Leo said, stepping forward, his eyes blazing. It's not just bureaucracy to us. It's real lives we're talking about. We need this chance to prove ourselves. To show the world we can do it, if only given the tools. Silence wrapped around them like a blanket. Tension still thrummed in the air, but now there was something else, a braided thread of hope woven through their words. It felt as if they were standing at the edge of a precipice, ready to leap, but still waiting for that nudge. The department head finally sat back down, papers rustling as her fingers traced their names and stories. I see that you're passionate, but we also require structure. Can you offer a plan? Show us how this can actually work. Jessica exchanged glances with her classmates, processing the offer. This was the opening she hadn't dared to hope for. They needed to unite now more than ever. We will, she promised, a newfound strength coursing through her. Just give us a moment. Let us prove to you what we can do. But there was a looming uncertainty over them. How could they possibly create a plan strong enough to resonate with someone so entrenched in the system? The doubt threatened to creep back in again, but she pushed it aside. They had come too far to give in now. Together, they gathered in a huddle, brainstorming as whispers of ideas bounced back and forth. As the sharpness of their ideas sharpened, Jessica felt her father's hand on her shoulder, encouragement radiating from him. With each passing minute, the resolve in the room grew stronger. But as they spoke and sketched their plans, another question loomed in the back of her mind: how much was she willing to stake on this moment? As she prepared to present their ideas, a realization washed over her. This wasn't just about the program anymore, it was about her family, her community, and a future she was determined to forge. The moment of truth was fast approaching, and the weight of that truth pressed heavily, but there was also a glimmer of hope lighting the way forward. Would their plan be enough? Would they be ready to fight harder than ever before? The huddle fell silent. Jessica could feel the weight of their collective hopes resting on her shoulders. She glanced around, taking in the anxious faces of her classmates. Each one had their own story, their own dreams. She drew in a deep breath, steeling herself for the task ahead. Okay, everyone, she began, her voice firm yet tinged with nervousness. We need a concrete plan that shows our dedication and what this program really means to us. Leo nodded, his eyes shining with determination. We start by highlighting our strengths. We can illustrate how the program equips us for success, and then propose methods for improvement based on our experiences. It's about making real change. A few students murmured their agreement, and Jessica felt a surge of hope. Yes. We can focus on mentorship programs that connect us with professionals in our fields. Real-world experience, internship opportunities. If we can show that we're committed to learning, maybe they'll listen. As they tossed ideas back and forth, a rhythm developed, each thought building on the last. The room pulsed with energy. Jessica could feel her father's gaze resting on her, a steady presence that infused her with courage. What if we create workshops? Tara, one of their classmates, chimed in. We could showcase our projects, bring in guest speakers, and even have a community event. It would show the department head just how passionate we are. Right. Jessica beamed. And if we include students from different backgrounds, we can emphasize the diverse perspectives we all bring. This isn't just about one demographic, it's about everyone having a voice. As the ideas spiraled and grew, so did Jessica's conviction. She was no longer just a student fighting for her own future, she was part of a community united in a common goal. They weren't just fighting for change, they were creating it together. Once the brainstorming session subsided, Jessica took a moment to glance around at her friends. They seemed more than just classmates now, they were comrades rallying for something bigger than themselves. Her heart raced not out of fear, but from the thrill of possibility. "All right," she said, rallying as they took their seats once more. "Let us present our plan. We need to show them that our vision is clear, and we're ready to follow through." But even as she spoke, an uneasy thought crept back in: would the department head truly see their passion? Would she be willing to take a chance on them? As Jessica stood before the group, preparing to outline their plan, an unexpected noise interrupted the moment. A shrill ring echoed in the conference room. She glanced at the department head. Her phone was vibrating violently on the table, drawing everyone's attention away. The head of the department seemed taken aback, quickly reaching for the phone, her expression shifting as she read the message. This can't be right," she murmured, brows knitting together. Jessica's heart skipped a beat. A sense of foreboding settled over the room. She couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was unfolding was about to change the course of their meeting and perhaps their future. "What's going on?" Jessica asked, her voice steady despite the anxiety pooling in her stomach. The department head looked up, her expression a mixture of concern and urgency. "I need to take care of this. It's about the program, and it's serious." With the meeting now teetering on the edge of chaos, Jessica felt her heart racing. Could this be good or bad? Would it derail their chances, or would it serve as a pivotal moment that could swing the tide in their favor? Before she could resolve her thoughts, the weight of that unknown loomed larger than ever. How would they adapt now? What was about to unfold would either make or break everything they'd worked for. Jessica's breath caught as the department head's eyes moved sharply across the room, scanning for someone. "I need to speak with the administration immediately. This is a matter of urgency." The tension in the air morphed into a palpable stillness. The hum of anxiety shifted to restless whispers among the students. What could be so urgent? Was there a change coming for their program, or was everything about to come crashing down? "Let us stay focused," Leo urged, glancing around the room. His voice held a steadiness that helped to anchor the worry swirling through Jessica's mind. "Whatever it is, we have to stick to our plan. We've prepared for this moment. We can't let distractions pull us away." Jessica nodded, her mind racing. What was at stake here? They had put their hearts into their ideas, but was it enough? The clock on the wall ticked loudly, each second feeling like an eternity. A few moments passed before the department head returned, her expression still tense. "I apologize for the interruption. It's a lot to process," she began, and Jessica could see her take a moment to compose herself. "I just received news about cuts to the program budget. We need to rethink our approach on how we can support each other. What you're proposing is vital now more than ever." Jessica's heart sank. Cuts? Was this leading to even more uncertainty? She could feel the weight of her classmates' anticipation. What did this mean for their plans? Tara shifted in her seat. "Are you saying our projects might not get funded?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The department head sighed, almost as if the very act of explaining the news felt heavy in her chest. "There are difficult decisions ahead, but the administration wants to hear your voices. They need to know what you want and how you plan to adapt." A flicker of hope ignited within Jessica. "So, they want us to present our ideas even more passionately? This could actually work in our favor," she said, trying to uplift the sinking spirits around her. "We can show them that we are worth investing in. This could be our chance to really make an impact." With a renewed sense of purpose, the group began to build off her energy. Ideas flowed again, this time infused with a sense of urgency and resilience. They focused on practical solutions, ways they could save money while still enriching the program. They crafted outlines for workshops that could engage local businesses, potentially bringing in sponsorships. Jessica felt a rush of excitement as they discussed how they could create online outreach to gather community support. They could prove that their program was invaluable not just for themselves, but for the community they served. "All right. Let us get on the same page," Jessica commanded, and she reached for a whiteboard marker. Ideas erupted like wildfire. They discussed collaboration with local nonprofits, reaching out for resources, and creating a petition to build momentum. But as Jessica wrote their new ideas, her doubts still lingered. Would it truly be enough to change the minds of the administration? Would their hard work shine through the shadow of potential cuts? After brainstorming, they regrouped, ready to finalize their presentation. "We can't lose hope," Leo said gently, his enthusiasm contagious. "We're in this together." Jessica took a deep breath, determined. "Then let us make our voices heard. This is our moment." As the group left the conference room, Jessica felt a mixture of fear and hope bubbling in her chest. They were stepping into the unknown, holding on to their dreams in a time of uncertainty. But what if this crisis forced them to uncover something even deeper? What if their collective struggle became a source of strength, turning the tide in their favor? Before they reached the exit, a text buzzed on Jessica's phone. She glanced down. It was from her father. "Just heard the news about funding. You can do this. I believe in you." Her heart swelled, but her apprehension remained. Could they rise to the challenge? What course would their fight for change take next? The answers loomed just beyond their grasp. As they emerged from the conference room, the corridor felt alive with chatter. Students hustled about, while Jessica's heart pounded in her chest. She could hardly register the voices around her, they seemed to drift in and out like distant echoes. "Jessica!" Tara called, rushing up to her side. "Did you see that look on the department head's face when she mentioned cuts? We need to be prepared for anything." There was urgency in her voice, and it mirrored the fluttering anxiety in Jessica's stomach. I know," Jessica replied, gripping her notebook tightly as if it were a lifeline. They decided to convene at their usual hangout spot, a small cafe just down the street from campus. As they settled around a worn-out table, the smell of freshly brewed coffee enveloped them, a small comfort amidst brewing fears. Leo arrived last, a paper under his arm and determination in his eyes. "I've been thinking," he said, his voice firm. "What if we reached out to some alumni? They might be able to help us. This is our shot to really rally support behind our project." The idea resonated with Jessica. "Yes. They might know people in the industry who can guide us or even help fund parts of our projects." She felt the group's energy stir, but the shadow of doubt still loomed. Alice, who had been quietly sipping her coffee, finally spoke up. "But what if no one responds? What if we're just wasting our time?" Jessica glanced at Alice, who had fear written all over her face. "We can't think like that. We have to believe in our vision and ourselves. What we have is powerful." As if on cue, Tara pulled out her phone. "Let us start reaching out. I'll draft some messages we can use." In moments, fingers were flying over screens, and a flurry of emails began to take shape. Each notification that popped up brought a fresh current of optimism. "I just sent one to our last speaker from the symposium," Tara announced excitedly. "I'll update you guys if I hear anything." Hours passed in a tangled mix of coffee refills and brainstorming. Conversations flowed from strategy to shared memories about the program. Laughter broke through the tension, reminding them of the bonds they had forged. But amidst the camaraderie, Jessica's thoughts drifted to her father's text. She could almost hear his steadfast encouragement, the way he had always pushed her to fight for what she wanted. Yet, as the sun began to set and shadows crept into their cafe corner, the reality of their situation washed over her like cold water. Finally, Leo broke the silence, his tone serious. "What if we fail?" Jessica felt her heart clench. "I refuse to believe that," she said, her voice stronger than she felt inside. "Failure isn't an option. We have to keep believing and pushing. We owe it to ourselves and this program." Before anyone could respond, her phone buzzed again. Jessica glanced down and felt warmth surge through her body. "It's an email from an alum. They want to meet us to discuss our project." Cheers erupted around the table. Hope branched out in their hearts, filling the gaps that doubt had occupied. They were not just fighting for funding, they were fighting for their dreams, each other, and something larger than themselves. But as excitement bubbled, a chilling thought clawed at the back of Jessica's mind. What if their meeting exposed flaws they weren't ready to confront? In that moment of uncertainty, she realized that together, they could face anything that came their way. "This is just the beginning," she declared, her determination shining through. The group nodded, adrenaline pumping through them, ready for whatever challenge lay ahead. But as they prepared to finalize their plans, a new message popped up on Jessica's phone. It was from the administration. It read, "We need to speak with you about urgent matters regarding your program." What did they want now? The clamor of the cafe faded into a surreal background hum as Jessica stared at her phone, the message blurring into the edges of her vision. Heat coursed through her veins, a mix of dread and uncertainty. She could sense the atmosphere shift as her friends caught sight of her expression. "What's wrong?" Tara asked, leaning in. "It's from administration. They want to talk to us about urgent matters regarding our program," Jessica replied, her voice trembling slightly. A heavy silence settled in. Leo scratched the back of his neck, and Alice stared down into her coffee, her earlier confidence dimming. Tara bit her lip, her excitement from just moments ago now replaced with concern. "What if this is about the budget cuts?" Tara suggested, worry etching deeper lines into her forehead. "What if they're getting rid of us?" "No," Jessica said, shaking her head. "We just got that email from the alum. This is a good sign." But even she could feel the weight of uncertainty hanging over them. Her thoughts raced, suddenly filled with what-ifs. She took a deep breath, trying to collect herself. "We can't jump to conclusions. We need to meet with them, get the details, and then strategize." Leo nodded slowly. "We've come too far to back down now. If this meeting is bad news, we'll all face it together. However, if it's good news, right?" Tara cut in. "We need to stay positive. You never know what they could be thinking." Their chatter resumed, but Jessica's mind was still teetering on the edge of anxiety and hope. They discussed possible reasons for the meeting, perhaps more funding, or even an opportunity to showcase their project in a bigger venue. Yet, the reality of budget cuts loomed large in everyone's thoughts. Once they settled the logistics of the meeting, the group slipped back into lighter banter. They shared inside jokes and playful jabs, the warmth returning, but Jessica's heart was still racing. After what felt like hours, the cafe began to thin out as night fell outside. Jessica's excitement faltered as new doubts settled in. Could they really handle whatever the administration threw at them? "Are we ready for this?" she finally voiced, surprising herself with the question. "Yes," Leo affirmed firmly, drawing everyone's attention. "We've built something great together. Whatever happens, we've got each other. That counts for a lot." "I know, but I can't shake this sense of worry," Jessica admitted, her voice lowering. "Worry means you care, Jess," Alice chimed in. "And we all do. But caring also means preparing for anything. And we can't let that fear stop us from moving forward." The group collectively took a deep breath. Together, they represented a spirit of resilience. They were each other's backbone. The thought grounded Jessica, rekindling her determination as they stood up to leave. Before stepping out into the cool night air, Era grabbed Jessica's arm. "Remember, regardless of what they say, we've got each other, and we can figure it out." As they walked down the street, Jessica scrolled back to the administrative message, her stomach twisting again. The shadows around them deepened, not just from the night but from the very real possibility of facing their fears head-on. Then, her phone buzzed once more. Another email notification. Heart racing, she unlocked the screen, but the words twisted in her chest. "Additionally, we must inform you that cuts are imminent. Meeting scheduled for tomorrow at 9 a.m. Jessica stopped, her breath hitching. "They're cutting, it's confirmed." The reality of their impending meeting surged like a tidal wave, each of them wrestling with their own fears. What would tomorrow bring? What was the worst they might hear? Would this truly be the end, or just another beginning? The air was thick with tension as Jessica stood frozen, her friends awash in shock. The message on her screen felt heavy, weighing down on her like the twilight darkness creeping in. She glanced around. The once vibrant street was now bathed in shadows, mirroring her trepidation. "What do we do now?" Tara's voice broke through the silence, filled with an urgency that matched Jessica's racing heart. Jessica took a deep breath, trying to quell the pounding in her ears. "We meet with them tomorrow," she said, forcing conviction into her tone, "and we prepare ourselves for the worst. But we also prepare for the best." "A backup plan, huh?" Leo offered with a weak smile, attempting to lighten the mood. But the lightness didn't reach his eyes. Each of them nodded, but an unspoken fear lingered. They were all hanging on the edge of uncertainty. What if their hard work was for nothing? What if the passion they'd poured into their project was deemed insufficient? Their steps quickened as they made their way to Jessica's apartment. The conversation turned to strategies as they brainstormed potential arguments they could make to administration, how they'd preempt any negative perspectives brought up in the meeting. Tara sketched out note cards, jotting down critical points of discussion as if they were preparing for a battle. As they reached Jessica's door, Alice stopped. "I just keep thinking about what it all means. This project, it's our future. It's everything." Her eyes were wide, brimming with emotion. Jessica felt the tightness in her chest. "I know. But whatever happens, remember we're in this together." They piled into the small living room, laughter eking out from nervous tension. As dusk settled into night, snacks were shared amidst a barrage of ideas. They filled the room with laughter, yet the undercurrent of apprehension pulsed through every joke and anecdote shared. Eventually, the laughter faded, leaving only the clink of plates and the sound of anxious breaths. Each of them stole glances at the clock, like it was a bomb counting down to their doomsday. Jessica glanced at the clock again. "Maybe we should call it a night. We need to be at our best tomorrow." Reluctantly, they began to gather their things. Tara turned, squeezing Jessica's shoulder. "We've got your back, Jess. Just remember that." Jessica nodded, the warmth of camaraderie wrapping around her like a blanket. But as they left, she felt a spiraling doubt settle into her stomach again. Could friendship alone withstand the currents of fate? In the stillness of her apartment, Jessica stared at the wall, shadows dancing in the flickering light. Every worst-case scenario whirled through her mind, each one more daunting than the last. She felt hollow. How did everything spiral to this point? There was so much riding on this meeting. As sleep finally began to tug at her, she wrestled with the reality of the situation. This was their passion, their dream. Tears pricked at her eyes, pooling in a mixture of fear and a fierce resolve. They had built something together that was worth fighting for. The thought ignited a flame within her. Tomorrow wasn't just about saving a program. It was about standing up for everything they found important. As she lay in bed, she whispered a silent prayer. What would she say when faced with the harsh truths of their situation? Would they be ready to fight for what they loved? Morning would come soon, and with it, a chance to prove themselves. The weight of anxiety lingered heavy in the air. What if, despite all their effort, the sadness of failure consumed them? The sun was slowly rising, casting a golden light through her window. What would it reveal? Tomorrow was not just another day, it was a defining moment. Then, her phone vibrated on the table. Another notification from administration. Her heart skipped. What would it say? Would it herald disappointment or hope? Jessica stood at the edge of the conference room, the air thick with uncertainty and hope intertwined. Her friends gathered with her, close yet distant, each face marked with determination in the face of potential despair. The clock ticked closer to their fate, reverberating through her chest. As doors opened, they stepped inside, nerves buzzing like a live wire in Jessica's stomach. The department head sat across from them, flanked by two administrative figures, all eyes locked onto the group. "Thank you for coming," the department head began, her voice steady but not without a hint of concern. "We understand you have a strong commitment to your program." The words danced around Jessica's ears, drowning in the tidal wave of her anxiety. She could hardly grasp what they meant, for every hopeful word turned into a question mark in her mind. But then Leo boldly spoke up, "We're here to fight for our future, to show you why this program matters." The room buzzed with energy as Leo's words cut through the density of the moment. Jessica felt a pulse of adrenaline. He was speaking for all of them, and it ignited flames of hope within her heart. As more classmates chimed in, sharing stories and passion, Jessica found her courage rising. "We are more than just students. This program is a lifeline, a way for all of us to build lives, to bring back hope to our families. We need it just like we need each other." She looked around as faces brightened with clarity, eyes fierce and ready. The department head's gaze softened as she listened. "We hear your passion, but restructuring programs is complicated. There's fear of funding and student enrollment." Tara stepped forward, addressing the gravity of the situation. "We're aware of that, but if you give us a chance, we can show you tangible results. We want to engage the community, to create opportunities that bring value to the program." An uncomfortable silence cloaked the room. But Jessica's heart soared. Their unity was a force she'd never fully appreciated before. "We could organize community workshops, networking with local businesses to showcase our skills. It's not just about funding, it's about creating a life around what we love. And when we have that, we'll bring more students in," Jessica added, a fire igniting behind her words. Uncertainty flickered in the eyes of the administrators, but Jessica pushed forward. "This isn't just a number on a balance sheet. We are fighting for our dreams that can elevate entire families. If we work together, we can create something incredible." As the words hung in the air, the tension began to shift. "These ideas are refreshing," one administrator spoke up, his tone shifting from skepticism to intrigue. "But we need a solid plan, a detailed proposal that outlines how we can bounce back. You need to show us how your vision could realistically transform this program." Jessica nodded, heart pounding. "We will. We'll collaborate on every detail. We'll reach out to alumni, engage the entire community. Let us prove what we can do with guidance and a bit of trust. Our passion can breathe new life into this program." As she spoke, she could see the gears turning in their minds. The weight of the room hovered, but instead of dread, there was possibility, a thin thread weaving through their uncertainty. Finally, hunger for change was palpable. "We'll schedule a follow-up in 2 weeks, the department head declared, her voice softened by the fire of their commitment. "Your proposal will determine the future of this program." Cheers erupted, a wave of relief cascading through the room. Jessica felt tears prick at her eyes, a rush of gratitude. They had done it together. They had turned the tide, their voices echoing loudly enough to reach someone who mattered. As they exited the room, a sense of triumph coursed through Jessica. Each step weighed less, the heavy shadow of dread lifting. She could feel her father's presence, his support and pride lighting the way. The sun shone bright outside, awakening the world anew. It felt like a fresh start, an affirmation of resilience. That wasn't just hers but belonged to everyone in that room. Jessica glanced back at her friends, seeing joy reflected on their faces, eyes shining like beacons of hope. With renewed purpose, she embraced them, folding them into a tight hug. "We'll keep fighting," she promised, her voice steady. "For us, for our families, for everyone who believes." And in that moment, unity echoed far louder than fear, a promise forged that whispered of change, growth, and bright futures ahead. As they stepped into the daylight together, their laughter mingled with the gentle breeze, a promise of what was to come, and the change they would create. This was just the beginning. Now it's your turn. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.